we'll be talking about a subject that has stirred up quite a bit of conversation these days, the changing landscape of education. So we're very interested and curious to hear what you'll be saying about this.
Hey, well, thanks
And
for
over
having
to
me,
you.
James. This is awesome. Thank you for that introduction. Yeah, and thank you for letting me be here. I've been involved in a couple of these events. Could not be more impressed with what James, yourself, and Stelios have put on with this One Business World Convention. So I'm excited to be invited back and continue to share a little bit about my perspective of some of the things that we've come to learn through Dojo, through some other projects we have going on, kind of about the landscape of education and how it's really beginning to change. So some things to look at and then some things to recognize as we begin to move forward. So I guess just kind of an overview of what we want to cover today is first and foremost, as things can continue to change, the only way that we can keep up and really begin to adapt is through some type of action. So for those who take the time to listen to me present today, number one, thank you. But number two, our goal is going to be able to have you walk away with something that you can do, whether to enhance your own educational experience or enhance the educational experience of somebody else. So those are two things I want you to keep in mind, is what type of action can I take? What am I thinking? What am I feeling? What am I going to do moving forward? That's going to be one of the things I want you guys to focus on. But in terms of what we'll cover, first, we want to kind of address like what's called an internal, external locus of control, kind of being reactive or proactive in our educational pursuits. And then I want to transition into what we've been doing with Dojo, kind of the Own Your Education project that we've put on. So first and foremost, I'd love to share my screen real fast. This is a quick concept I want to introduce as we begin to dive into some things. So for anyone out there who's maybe a psychology nerd, I love psychology, preferably on the performance side. So how our mindset, how our environment affects the things that we do. But there's a concept in psychology called the locus of control, the importance of kind of taking ownership of this piece in our lives. But the locus of control is what is known as like two different types of mindsets. And what's interesting is we're always in one of these forms of thinking. We're either in an internal or we're in an external. We're always flipping back and forth, kind of like a light switch. But an internal locus of control is the belief or mindset that you have control of your destiny, or you have control over what happens in the future. Right? So your actions matter, right? Or it says in red right here, I can make things happen, right? Now, the inverse of that is what's called an external locus of control, or this is a belief or mindset that no matter what you do not have any influence or control over the outcomes of events, right? So a lot of the times people say, hey, things just happened to me. It wasn't my fault, things like this. And so these are two different types of thinking, right? And especially when it comes to education and learning, it's important to recognize what type of mindset we're in. So a simple definition of education I've come to really believe and love and use through our courses, through everything we do, is education is a form of internal progression, right? So it's helping us get from where we are to where we want to be, right? And so when it comes to educating ourselves, when it comes to, learning new skills, gaining new knowledge, everything we do in this realm typically should come from an internal type of mindset, right? The idea of that I can get from where I am to where I want to be. I can make things happen, right? One of the things that we've come to see through different experiences with students, through different teachers at schools, educational systems, a lot of times we'll find individuals that fall into an external type of approach to education where maybe they just show up and they expect things to kind of be given to them. This can come from a lack of not knowing what they want to do, not knowing what their opportunities are, or just not having an engaging environment, allowing them to progress in what is going on. Right. So everything we talk about today, we want to come at it from an internal perspective where we are in charge, right? Getting from where we are to where we want to be. In other words, we can make things happen, right? So with what we've kind of done, we've ended up creating a company called Dojo, which one of our biggest primary focuses is helping individuals learn the skills that they need to become successful in some field in the future. Dojo was a subsidiary of a project that I'd started earlier on while attending school called Own Your Education. Little backstory about how Own Your Education started. It was kind of based off of personal experience. I ended up living in Australia for 2 years, doing some volunteer work for my church, and came back to America to continue to move forward in my career and continue to progress. Now, as I was going to school, I was a student athlete, I was competing, I was training, I was taking my business courses. I was trying to follow this path of what I'd been taught, to figure out what I wanted to do. We ended up getting to a point where I didn't know what I wanted out of my future. I didn't know why I was at school, why I was taking these classes. I didn't know what I wanted to do in the future. And so I don't know if I'm the only one who's ever had this problem, but we've come to see that many people also are trying to figure out what they want to do long term. So what do I do when I don't know what to do? Typically, I will go and talk to my dad. And so I end up talking to my dad. He works in a tech company based out of San Francisco. And as I've started to talk to him, he kind of opened my mindset to what my possibilities were, right? I was in an external type of locus of control, right? Things were happening to me. I didn't know where I wanted to be. I didn't know what I wanted to do, right? He helped me switch that to a more internal locus where I was in control, right? So what he invited me to do was he said, hey, Jer, you should go work for one of these tech companies. You'll get some experience, and figure out what you want to do through action instead of just sitting around waiting for things to come. Go act, go figure things out proactively, what you want to do. And that kind of just broke me out of this wall that I had created for myself, right? In the sense of things were going on that I didn't have control of. I didn't know where school was taking me and whatnot, right? But as I started working for this company, I ended up gaining an education of itself, right? Education of how sales work, education how teams function, how startups grow, how companies scale. All of this was coming from an educational opportunity that had to be sought out proactively. And all of a sudden, I felt like I began to learn more and understand more than some of my peers that had continued to just go to school. But because of that, it was not because of the environment or the company or lack of education on the school level. It was just because of a mindset shift of being able to flip from an external to an internal locus of control, right? The ability to make things happen or to put a purpose behind what we are learning. So while going at this company, started a foundation called Own Your Education, where I ended up setting out on a project to interview 100 people. We're still in the process of making that happen. But as I continue to do personal interviews, as I continue to learn from mentors and leaders from their perspectives, we've begun to see that there's so many different ways to educate ourselves, right? Going to school is an amazing opportunity to continue to learn, but it's not a one size fits all for everybody. Over the past, you could say 20 years, if not 10, the access that we've had to information has never been greater, right? And so if I wanted to take a class at Harvard, I could probably go look one up on YouTube and learn from some of the best professors, the best teachers in the world. But the only way that I'd be able to learn and gain this type of knowledge is through a proactive ownership type of approach. And so what we're trying to do through Dojo, what we're trying to do through the Own Your Education project is help people recognize the need for proactivity in everything that they are learning, right? Education is not a reactive type of process. It's proactive, coming from studying, coming from asking questions, coming from making mistakes and through failing. That is the only way that we continue to grow, is through trying and sometimes failing, continuing to move forward with our new experiences, with our new knowledge that we've gained. And so that's a big push that we have, is to promote that type of learning through, whether it be other courses, whether it be in schools and things like that. But specifically with Dojo, what we've done is been able to create an environment for people of all communities, all education levels, to come in and learn together. Specifically, we focus on the sales type of skills. So being able to build relationships with those who don't know who you are, don't know what you do, and be able to build value for them, while in return, being able to make a gain, whether it be for a company, whether you're pitching your product, trying to raise money, things like that. And so what we've been able to see in these environments that we've created through Dojo is that once people take a proactive type of approach or mindset, their education becomes exponential. Their learning begins to increase. And so through our course, our first week, we specifically don't talk about anything maybe sales related, but we talk about the ability to teach leadership principles. So we've seen that many times people will fall into again, a mindset of not being proactive or leading their own lives. They're oftentimes waiting for others to lead them to where they want to be. But typically that's not how life goes. That's not how life works per se long term. But we need to teach individuals specifically leadership skills so that they can lead their own lives. So our first week through the course, what we talk very often about is being purpose-driven in what we do, finding a deeper purpose of where we want to be and why. We talk about being able to take ownership, right? If you want to learn something, if you want something done, you can do it. And there's actions that you can do to make that happen, right? So putting it on ourselves. And the third is be able to work with leaders, work with mentors, creating a sense of humility, learning from others, and being willing to fail. These are the three pillars that we've covered before we get into anything sales related. Because if we don't have the pillars of being purpose-driven, taking ownership, and working as a team, nothing else matters as people move into the workforce, as people move into future opportunities. And so as we teach these leadership principles to individuals, we enable them to lead their own lives, right? And as people go through the course, we've come to see that once individuals have this type of thinking, this ownership mindset, they're oftentimes able to teach themselves, which is such a powerful principle. So through our courses, we cover specific curriculum of things that we need them to learn and to practice. But as we go through the course, we end up having the students lead their own groups. We have the students give each other feedback. And as they've learned the principles of how to be successful, they can begin to apply and teach them to their peers, to their others that they're working with. So our goal is, yes, to learn the sales skills and become proficient, but more importantly than that is to create a mindset of ownership and giving people the tools and the confidence to lead teams and people in the future through their own skills, through their own self-teaching. One of my favorite examples comes from one of our first students. Ended up coming into the course, looking to get into a new sales career, into a new sales job. Didn't specifically have any sales experience in the past, but as he came through the course, and as he began to take ownership and he saw that he could make things happen in the future, as he put in the work, as he gained the skills, you could see his confidence begin to grow and grow and grow and grow. So that by the end of the course, we had multiple interviews lined up. He had multiple offers from different companies. And after he'd kind of picked where he wanted to go, the hiring manager ended up telling him, he said, if it was up to me, I'd hire you on the spot. Ended up getting into the company. And once he was there, not only did he fulfill his role of being a sales rep at a high level, but people began to look to him to teach them the same skills that he learned. And so it wasn't just him learning a skill to make his life better, but it was him learning a skill and learning the leadership qualities to be able to lead a team to help others to do the same. And so that's probably been one of our biggest missions, our biggest focuses with Dojo, is to, one, help people proactively take or learn and apply the skills that they need to be successful in the future. But more important than that, and everything that underlays that, is this idea of owning your own education. Seeing something that you want, recognizing that you have the potential to get it, and then taking the steps necessary, putting it on your own shoulders to make it happen, right? What's amazing is that oftentimes you're not alone, right? There are more people out there who also want to progress, who want to become better, to reach new heights. And if you can surround yourself with that caliber and those type of people, then the trajectory that you have continues to go up and continues to skyrocket. Our goal at Dojo is to create those type of communities for people who want to come in, people who want to progress, who want to push themselves to become better. And a lot of times we just facilitate those people working together to make things happen. So I guess in summary, just what we want to walk away with, again, thinking of something that you want to do differently, something that you want to teach somebody, something that you want to apply yourself. But what we covered was an internal versus external type of mindset, right? So in mindset, for an internal, I can make things happen, right? I have an influence on my destiny of what goes on, instead of saying, hey, things happen to me, right? And I don't have any control, right? We have control over so many aspects of our lives. We can make things happen as we take that ownership perspective, right? Second thing is, there's so many different opportunities out there to grow. And it's up to us to kind of seek them out. The only difference between, an entry-level individual and someone who is like a C-suite or higher executive is just experience and education, right? And that's something that we all have the ability to do, is to learn and to grow. And so if we can seek leaders and mentors to help us get there, we can oftentimes accelerate the rate of growth that goes on. And the last thing that we just wanted to cover and point out is, education is so much more than just gaining knowledge, gaining facts, but it's a type of internal progression of helping you get from where you are to where you want to be. And once you're at where you want to be, kind of turning back and helping others do the same, of helping them also recognize their own potential and helping them get to where you are, helping at the same time, helping you progress in so many different ways. So I'm very passionate about education. I'm very passionate about learning. This is something that should take place in all aspects of our life. And my goal is to have you guys just continue to seek opportunities to learn the things that matter. Don't look back with regrets, but really identify what's most important and take the steps necessary to learn those things and make your goals happen. So thank you guys for having me. I'm on LinkedIn, so feel free to shoot me a message on LinkedIn. It's Jaron Erickson, got a little 100 emoji right next to it. But feel free to send me a message about what you've learned and what you want to do moving forward to continue to move your education and continue to progress in those ways. So thank you. If you don't use LinkedIn, you can download it. It's a free platform. It's a great one. So, but James, thanks for having me. This has been a privilege.
Jaron, thank you so much. I mean, what you've touched on, if you've been through education, it's so obvious that this is something that's never there. How old are the people who come in to learn with you, more or less? And I mean, what is the age more or less where they come in?
Yeah, well, James, initially we thought it'd be more people like, late 20s and whatnot. What we've seen is we've worked with individuals from high school levels. We've worked with individuals who are not happy in their career, so 40, 50 plus. We've worked with college graduates who don't know what they want to do moving forward, or they want to get into sales. So we've seen that this importance of education and progression should never stop and ends up taking place in every different age group and category.
Yeah, I mean, in listening to you, I would say that one of the main goals of education should be to help students, starting with students, to begin to understand, to find what really interests them, what they really want. But as you know, so much education is focused on just learning things by heart, following the curriculum. Learning your math, learning a language, learning this, learning that, but it's never related to what do you really want. And I find this essential, and it would be wonderful if somehow that could be built into education. It's something that really would be essential. So I kind of hope that you can gradually create an influence on the system of education, because it's so essential. There are some schools that try to focus a little bit more on, more about the internal side of the students and what do they really want, what are they interested in, and so on. But it has a long way to go. So what you're doing, I find, is essential, and I think for present is something we should all really think about.
Well, James, I appreciate that, and it means the world. And last thing I'll say is things are changing. It's our mission to make these things happen and help people, like you said, recognize what they want to do, and then give them a platform or a way to learn what they care about. I think that's the future. We have access to so many different things at our fingertips. It just takes a little bit of proactivity and ownership, and you can learn anything you want these days. So
excellent. Well, we could continue this discussion for a long time. There's a lot to talk about, but really, thank you very much. Much appreciate this, and I look forward to reading more about it.
Okay. Well, James, thank you for having me. Thank you, Stelios. I'm excited for some of the rest of these speakers. You guys have some amazing individuals you've brought in. So thank you for letting me come back and be part of this. This is awesome.
Well, thank you.
Okay. See you guys later.
Yep.